Learn to create an action game in Unreal Engine 5 at unfgames.com. Hello y bienvenidos to this tutorial about the Procedural Content Generation tools, which is a great feature that is coming in the Unreal 5.2, which, as you can see, I have a volume, I can move it around, and stuff will start getting generated, right? So I have created my graph, so if the normal is too steep, then I don't generate trees there. So this means that if I have my forest here, and I decide, oh, let's use the landscape and create maybe some kind of path here, and I will flatten this, then you can see that it stops generating that many trees in my path, and I should really increase my tool strength and my brush size so you can actually see what's happening. So yeah, it's a pretty useful tool, and we're gonna learn the basics of it in this tutorial. The tool is just been live like for today. I have messed around with it maybe 2 hours. So, I mean, it's a good idea to start getting to know the tool earlier. So I'm going to create a new map, open world, so I have something to play around with. So here it is. It says, oh, physical material needs to be rebuilt. You can go here, build, and physical material only. Okay, so again, this tool is just released. I mean, if you had access to the 5.2 version before, great. But in most of our cases, at least in my case, I'm using Unreal Engine 5.1.2, and this is the preview one, right? So things can change, but I wanted to mess around a little bit with that tool. The first thing you need to do is activate the plugin, which is in the Edit, Plugins. And here you need to search for Procedural, and you will find it here, Procedural Content Generation tool. If you don't have it, this will be unchecked. You can check it. Your engine will ask you to restart it, and then you can restart it. You will know that you can actually use it if you just right click here and you find this PCG. This means that Procedural Content Generation. And in my case, I want to create a Procedural Content Generation graph, which is how I was spawning all those trees. And let's call it PCG tree spawner. Right. So to use it, we can just drag and drop it in the map. You can see the volume that will affect our procedural generation. I mean, it can affect other places, but usually you just want to contain it inside the volume. So having a volume here actually is great. I'm going to change it to 50 and in X and 50 in Y. In C, I'm going to maybe put 30. Just so in case I cover a great area. Okay, for now, it's fine. So we have our volume. We need to start using it. Let's open our tree spawner, and you will find this graph. Now, in this graph, you will have a lot of nodes. I believe they said like it was like maybe 40 nodes. And you can create your own for even more functionality that we saw in the actual demo, right? So I'm going to put my window here. And the way it works is very similar to Houdini, or at least you can use it very similarly to Houdini, in the way that you can generate points. And for that, you have your samplers here, sample, point sampler, spline sampler, surface sampler. For example, if I put points here and I connect it, right now I will not see what's happening, right? But if I just right click and debug, and I'm going to be using this kind of hotkey, which is D, I can see all the points that have been generated. And whenever I click on this, or well, any kind of node in this graph, I can modify the values. For example, the ratio, and that's it. So the ratio, I can increase it, I can decrease it. So it is easier if you have a value here, for example, 0.1, and you just, oh, I just want this value 10 times less. And now I can see more points. Well, now I can see the actual points that have been generated inside of my volume. In my case, I want the points to stick to the ground, right? So we can put trees there. So the sampler that will be useful to me is the surface sampler. The surface sample receives as an input a surface. Here my volume is the one that will give me the actual inputs, and I could connect here my landscape, but this will mean that I will create points in all of my landscape. Hopefully this doesn't crash my engine, because I do want to show it. If I just put this here and I put B, oh, that's great. Actually, it didn't actually use all my landscape. Oh, it didn't use all my surface because this was not checked, which is unbounded. If you check it, don't do it. It will create points on top of all your landscape. So yeah, just don't do it. It's fine. You already saw how it works, right? So what I want to use is the actual surface of my actor, of my volume. So I'll just use this in node. Now, it is sticking to the actual surface of my volume, which is not exactly what I want, right? So with my volume selected, I'm going to go here, PCG component, settings, and input type. Instead of actor, I'm going to check, well, I'm going to select the landscape. And now, I'll just hide this for a minute. You will see that it's sticking in the landscape. So if I move it around, my graph will still be generating all the points. And you can see what's happening here. Yeah, so based on those points, I can use that locations to start doing some interesting stuff. For example, so let's open it again. Here it is. Just like this. Let's say I wanted to spawn some meshes, right? For example, trees. Whenever you want to spawn meshes, there is a useful node called spawn. You can spawn actors, and static mesh is the one that I'm going to use. If you want to finish the execution, you can just connect this here. But even if you don't, you will see here in the mesh entries, I can select which meshes do I want to spawn. So let's select one, mesh. And by enabling this plugin, you have access to the PCG trees, which are just little example trees, low poly trees. So in the worst case scenario that you spawn like too many of them, then it's not a problem. So even if it is not connected to the output pin, it's the same. But for Keeping it clean, it's good that everything has an output and that the sequence finishes. Right, so right now I'm spawning a lot of trees. You can still see my dots because this with this what's that color? Teal. With this teal color means that I'm debugging it. If I press D, now I get rid of the points. If for some reason I wanted to get more information about the points or about any one of these nodes, what I can do is right click and start inspecting it. Now here I'll force the regeneration and now I need to select the instance here, and I can now here I can inspect all the values that are being regenerated by this surface sampler. For now I don't need it, so I don't need to inspect it. And if I wanted to get rid of the points, well, again here we can just disable it. Generating this kind of trees, I mean, can be very boring, right? Maybe it's exactly what you're looking for, but in my case, it's not. I really don't like that these kind of trees sometimes grow in this direction, which usually you want your trees to be up, right? So if a tree starts growing in a slope, it doesn't grow. It doesn't happen in nature. So that's one of the issues that we're going to solve now. Before entering that, you can see that this is kind of like a jungle. There are too many points of data here, very near to each other. So there are a lot of ways of doing the same things, right? So one of the ways of reducing the density here is if I use this surface sampler. And for now, I'm going to disable this static mesh spawner, right click, enable, also the E hotkey, just so we can see the points. We can click on the surface sampler, and in points per squared meter, we can decrease it, like, oh, let's divide by 10. So there are a lot less points. Now if I enable this, now I have less trees. Right, so I can get a lot of value. Now I'm going to multiply by 2 because I wanted more trees. I can get a lot of value out of these points per square meter. Also, let me open the debug again. We can increase the point extents because the way, let me disable the static mesh again. The way that these points are being generated, if you look at it closely, there is no point that is overlapping each other. So if I increase the stance, let me click on the surface sampler again. Let's say this is 200 and 200. You will see that there will be maybe less points now. And if I increase the C value, you can see a little bit of how they are being positioned. So I'm not gonna play too much around with the extents. With the point squared is fine by me. But what I'm going to do now, and let me enable this again and disable the debug, is getting rid of these trees. Like, I mean, sometimes they grow like this, but in the case that it is too, let me go to the landscape mode here, and I'll sculpt something very noticeable. Like, maybe I wouldn't want, let's go back to this section, this tree to be spawned. Right, so we're gonna play around with the normals of the actual surface, right? So it's all about working on top the points that you have generated, or whatever thing that you have generated that you're using as a location. So here, surface sampler, there is a normal to density, and I'm going to use this. For now, I'll disconnect it, and I'm going to click on the normal to density and debug it, which right now I believe it's the same as the one I have here. The same. But in the normal density, I want to eliminate the values where the normal is too extreme. So I'm going to tweak it a little bit. And you can see how the color changes. Which right now it doesn't tell me anything, right? So for now, I will leave it at 1. And this normal to density will give me a density value. So now I need to filter based on that density value. So here, density, filter, density filter. Now let's remove the debug from here and let's go to the density filter. The density filter, if I wasn't using the normal density, we could have used it, and let me remove the pins. The same way as the points per square meter. If I put that back to 0.1, here in the density filter, I can choose my upper bound and my lower bound. And I can increase or decrease the density by these values, right? But in my case, because of the way I'm doing things, I'm going to adjust it through this value. I believe it was half. No, that's too little. That's it. 0.02. So with this density filter, what I'm going to do is here put 0.7. And in the strength, I'm going to remove it, put it a little bit lower. So you see now that we are actually removing the places where the values are too extreme. And there it was too much. Okay, so that looks nice, I believe. And now I'm going to connect this density filter, which you can also tweak here, but I mean, didn't give me. I mean, you can tweak a lot around, but with the default values is working correctly, at least for me. I'm going to connect it back to the static mesh spawner. So now I can remove my debug and I can see how it's actually looking. Which is actually fine. If I move it around, you will see that it's going to try to find places where the trees can actually be, right? If you wanted different types of trees, let me go back to my tree spawner. Here in the static mesh spawner, you can click on mesh entries. Mesh. Let's find another tree from the asset, from the plugin. And now we have different types of tree. If you wanted this tree to be more prominent, to show more times, you can tweak around the weight of the tree. Maybe if I put this here 5, it will show around 5 times more than the other one. In my case, a nice distribution is fine. Right. Now, I want to add a little bit of variance. Maybe I want some of these trees to be larger. Again, we will work on top of the points that we already have. We can work on these points, but we're filtering a lot of them. So from here, I have the filtered points. And here I'm going to transform points. Now, this is still connected, so let's just remove that pin and connect my transform points. Nothing should be happening right now. But if I click on transform points, scale max, scale min, rotation max, these are values that I can play around. For example, scale max, right now it's with the lock, so if I type one number, it will be spread to the other axis. For example, let's type 2. Now, there will be a random number between 1 and 2, because the minimum is 1 and the other one is 2. If I wanted to put it more dramatically, I could put 0.5. And you will have little trees and big trees. And you can tweak around a lot of stuff. For example, the rotation. Maybe I want 180 and minus 180, or 0 and 360 also works. So now my trees have different rotations. With this transform node, we could also, if for example, we wanted for all of these to have the trees, let's say I remove my density filter, I just put disable with E. They are disabled. Now I can see all the trees that are being generated. But with the transform points, if you just wanted like I just want all my trees to grow upwards, here in the transform points, in the absolute rotation, we can click on true. And now all my trees are looking upwards. Now, it's not natural that you will see all the trees upright, right? So we can start tweaking, mixing and matching some rotations here. Rotation minimum, -5. The other in Y, also -5. Here 5, and here 5. And you will see now that we have little rotations. I mean, you can increase it by a lot, 20. But yeah, 20 maybe is too much. 5 is, I like 5. And now you can see that we're not taking in consideration the normal, but we are now always spawning trees regardless of the slope, which can look a little weird, or actually it's looking quite nice, at least with these trees. Now, the trees that I showed you at the start were from the marketplace. You can search for them. Oh, I'll just pause the video and show you. Here it is, Megascans trees, European biome. You just go to free, Megascans, and you will arrive here, and you can select any of these assets. So I could just replace this with my trees, with my actual trees. Geometry, pivot painter, and here I used this one and this one. You will see that I will need to tweak the assets a little bit more, right? So the scale is of the charts 1 point, maybe 3, and here 0.7. Yeah, and with these kind of assets, like can get very heavy, very easy. Like, oh, there are too much of them, so filtering them through the point Let's again divide by 4. Yeah, because they have more leaves, so I don't need that many trees actually. And we can enable our density stuff, so we are just spawning them where we need to. And well, I can multiply this by 2, so we have a little bit more trees. So yeah, it's pretty simple once you get it. But again, the tool is still experimental, I believe. So a lot of things can change between the release version of this tool and whenever Unreal Engine 5.2 releases. Yeah, but I actually like how it ended up. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention, I know I said, I don't really know if I said it, but this video is supposed to be like a quick start on how to start playing around with this tool, right? Because that's exactly what I did as soon as I downloaded the preview of the 5.2. What I wanted to do is, for example, change the maximum height, but from a parameter. The only way I found on how to do it, and if I found more resources on this topic, I will put it in the description below. The only way I found to do it, the only way I found how to do it, my English is falling. I'm too excited from all the news, Unreal related news. Okay, so you can create attributes here. Right click it, create attribute. We can give it a name. We can call it tree. I believe the density will be better. Yeah, more than the tree height. Yeah, the density, I believe it will be better. So let's change the density, not the tree height. Who wants to change that? Okay, so we created an attribute. We give it a name. And here in the surface sampler, I'm going to increase this for a bit. You remember the points per square meter? You have access to all of these inputs if you just click here. Parameters, points per square meter, point extents, etc. And for sure, if I click unbounded, my Unreal will crash with these high quality assets. But we have points per square meter, which is what I want to change. So I'm going to call it that. It could be, I'll just put another name just so you don't think that it needs to be the same name. It doesn't need to be. I'll just put forest points per square meter. There it is. Right now my default value is this one, so let's copy. And here the type, to know which type do I need, we can go put our mouse on top of the parameter that I need, and you will find subtype parameter supports only one input. Okay, but the important part is this one. Param type is a float, so I need a float. The float value, I'm pasting it 0.01. Now I have this, and now I'm going to connect it. Now whatever this value does, it will affect the overall generation, right? So if I move this around, let's say I have it, then you see that it's having it. And I'm going to Control C now. Perfect. But we don't have access to this right now through our volume. This is the part that got me stuck and couldn't find, like, I played around maybe for an hour and a half and I couldn't find how to make it show here. So if someone knows in the comments, please let me know. But the workaround that I found is that here in the graph, if I just right click And now I create, where is it? Export nodes to asset data. So remember, this is my attribute that I created by just right clicking, create attribute. You can create more attributes. Right click it, export nodes to asset data. And I'm going to call it PCG settings and call it forest. I'll just put density, even though it's not really that density, but I'll just put it density. Now with that created, oh, let me search, where did I create it? I will look around with this button. Here is my forest density. I have the name, the value, but I need to use it here. This is still an attribute. I need to get the information from the settings value. And if I remember correctly, I can drag and drop it here. I can copy it, the value, or I can use an instance. An instance, well, what should I? Okay, if I just copy it, doesn't get a reference to the original, so if I edit it later, then it won't update. I believe so. I used an instance, it worked great for me, so I'll keep using the instance. Now I'll just replace this, and I can delete this attribute. It already fulfilled its purpose. Okay, so now it's the same, right? But let's save everything in case I crash. And this untitled map, let's put it here, I believe. Demo PCG. No, not PSG. That's where Messi is. Okay, so let's save the map. And now, if I go to my settings, I should be able to modify this. Maybe half it. And it should affect my graph, which it did. The bonus thing about this is that I can close this. I can close my graph. And I can create more of them. Here is my graph. I'll put it this other way. And let me just have a better view of the land. And I'll just duplicate this so I can move it wherever I need. And you will see that my normals are doing their thing. Here, I'm not touching anything, so that's why it didn't get generated. And let's open the settings again. Let's increase them. Oh, why didn't it affect everything? Oh, okay. I guess I just needed to generate them. But yeah, it affects everything. Again, if I just divide, it's only affecting this one, maybe because I don't know. I don't know why it's not affecting the other ones, but if I generate them, don't tell me if I just drag and drop them from my content browser. Let's remember to set this to landscape, and let's increase the values of the scale. And I'm just testing this. I mean, for sure, what I'm going to tell you is that, oh, it's an experimental type of things, and oh, you need to press on generate. So, but I just wanted to test if it's different. I'll divide by 2. Yeah, I guess if you duplicate them, they don't generate unless you click on generate, but if you drag and drop them from the content browser, they do. Well, who knew? Hopefully they fix that when they release the actual 5.2, but it's a way that you can control everything. And because it's generating on load, whenever this level loads, everything that is using this graph will get updated, will get generated. And if you wanted to test stuff, you can clean this up. And whenever I press play or simulate, you will see that I'm actually using this. Oh, excuse me, that it's actually loading this. And it's not loading parts of the map because let me go to my window, world partitionator. Maybe they're not loaded here, but in case you open this map again and you don't see it, I mean, I unload it. You find stuff like this, you just open this window and load everything. If needed, right? You don't really need to load everything, but if you need all of the stuff here, then for sure, you can do it. And here, let me generate it again. So it's even a great way, if you're suffering with your resources, you can clean it up and they will get generated when you press play. Okay, so that's it for this quick. I don't really know how quick it was, but it's a way to start playing with the tools that are coming. Right now, this tool is in experimental, but let's see what's going to happen with it in the future. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.